Hi guys, my name is Braden, and today I'm going to be responding to an argument stating that the consumption of alcohol under the age of 21 causes minors to become insecure. My opponent's secondary claims started off stating that lowering the drinking age to 18 causes more deaths and casualties. He then followed up by stating his second point, which is that drinking at a younger age prevents the brain from maturing. His third point was that excessive underage drinking can lead to rapes, sexually transmitted diseases, and pregnancies. In response, I had to say, pull out a fact from the Monitoring the Future study of 2011, stating that 80% of high school seniors have tried a drink, and 50% of high school students claim to have consumed alcohol within the last month. Just because the youth are experimental is not to say that they are necessarily insecure. So, in response to his first secondary claim, which is that lowering the drinking age to 18 causes more deaths and casualties, he first stated evidence that about the National Traffic Highway Administration, but I believe that it's invalid because what he stated was that 9,000 lives are saved annually by having the drinking age lowered from 21 to 18. This is invalid because he's giving a set amount of lives that are being saved rather than a percentage of lives that are being saved, especially considering that the population of the United States has been growing at a rate of 2 million people per year since 1984, according to the U.S. Bureau of the Census. A counterclaim I also have to his secondary claim, or his first secondary claim, is that according to the NHTSA study of 2008, the largest number of alcohol-related traffic fatalities were among 21 to 24-year-olds, which was about 34%. People who were in between 18 to 20 were less than 10%, so less than a third of how many casualties were from 21 to 24. The legal age being pushed to 21 has only postponed people's casualties, not necessarily reduced them. I also found a study that shows from 1969 to 1975, when teenagers were legally able to drink between the ages of 18 to 20, there was a 19% reduction in fatalities among teenagers. The arguer then proceeded to speak about a secondary claim, which was that drinking at a younger age prevents the brain from maturing. He started off with evidence claiming that alcohol damages the liver and the liver allows harmful chemicals to enter the body. But I believe this is invalid because it hurts people of all ages' livers. Are we trying to protect only the younger legal adults? Why are we trying to protect them? It applies to less to teens even more so because they have a youthful resilience in their liver, so they have a higher possibility of being able to bounce back. I also had some challenges to his reasoning. He claimed that alcohol retards brain development and stops minors from growing mentally. But this does not apply on a large enough age scale. According to the National Institute of Health, brains continue to develop until an average of the age of 25. Why can a 21-year-old drink, but a 20-year-old can't drink, considering a 20-year-old is just as far along, pretty much as far along in his brain development as someone of the age of 21. The third claim that he used was that excessive underage drinking can lead to rapes, sexually transmitted diseases, and pregnancies. He had no evidence showing that there were rapes that were caused because of alcohol, but he did say that a statistic that 60% of college students who contract STDs were under the influence, but this had no backing. There was no evidence to support this claim, and there was no study that was referenced to. So, in my opinion, that could have even been just the arguer's estimation. As a challenge to his reasoning, he was stating that 45% of drunk college students failed to protect themselves during sex. According to the 1990 National Alcohol Survey conducted by the Institute of Survey Research, those who consume 5 or more drinks are half as likely to use a condom. This applies to people of all ages, not just people who are under the age of 21. Alcohol increases the likelihood of sex exponentially and reduces a person's chance of using a condom significantly in most cases, not just those of teens. I believe that the House of Representatives from South Carolina, Fletcher Smith, representative, said it best when he said the statement, "If you can take a shot in the battlefield, you ought to be able to take a shot of beer legally." In conclusion, the consumption of alcohol under the age of 21 doesn't necessarily cause minors to become insecure. That's all.
All right. Well, you state the advocate's main point, and then you go through the secondary issues. I'm still trying to hear some explanation about security and insecurity. I don't know how that got defined by the advocate. I don't know how you're defining it. All of those supporting claims seem to dance around a variety of other issues, not particularly related to security. And so it's sort of like the elephant in the room. Both of you have made this a part of the claim. Both of you acknowledge it's part of the claim, and neither one of you is addressing it. So I found it a little bit frustrating. I do think that the secondary claims are probably where there ought to be more focus, and so you do appropriately respond to those secondary points. The challenge on the invalidity of the data on the first point on deaths, because the population density has changed each year, I don't know that that press gets you anything. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. It sounds like something that you would say immediately after the argument just to have something to say. It doesn't really show that there is any reason that there's not a savings in lives. And in fact, if the advocate has presented some data that shows a savings in lives, it makes that argument just seem silly by comparison. The better argument that I think you have is that it simply postpones those casualties, and I think you need to state that as a declarative claim on this particular point and then give us the data. You're kind of working backwards. I think I mentioned that to somebody else. We're getting the evidence, and then we're having to figure out what the inference is from that, and you want it to be the other way around. On the second point, you basically say, well, what's unique about younger drinkers? Look, everybody's got problems from drinking alcohol, so what's particularly unique about that? On the other hand, you later on cite evidence that says, everybody acknowledges that the brain develops up until the time you're 25. So it seems like all you're squawking about is the 4-year difference. Why don't we give a damn about the people 4 years after they're 21? And why do we give a damn about the people 4 years before they're 21? But neither of those deny the issue of whether or not there is a harm to people drinking at that particular age, which is what the claim was that the advocate was presenting. The other argument on rapes, STDs, and a variety of other problems that come up, I think you do have a good challenge on the 60%. If he didn't provide a source for that and doesn't give you any explanation of it, I think there is a good reason to question that. It does sound like there is a statistic on the failure to use protection. I do think you go to that argument once again about, well, yeah, but that's for anybody who's consumed that much alcohol, not just for people in a particular age group. Although I'd have to look at the context of that evidence. I'm not sure what exactly is being said there. I think that at the very end, when you get to this other argument, that's a value argument. It probably doesn't really apply to the issues that are being talked about here. All right, thank you.